No problems tonight, Clinton. Welcome back to Inside the Pylon, a Midwest college football podcast, joined as always by Clinton Boring. My name is Ryan Satkowiak. Oh, is that another Milrow pick?
I don't know. Are you ahead of me? Don't be ruining the game for me.
I was ahead of you.
It's 4th and 10 is what I have.
Yeah, it was another Milrow pick.
Gosh darn it.
Yes, welcome back for the first good radio. For the first time in the history of this podcast, we are doing a an A&M. Oh my God, go! I can't believe I'm rooting for Texas A&M. That's,
as you guys can tell, we are currently enjoying watching games while we are live with you.
yeah, the first time
because we have never done a Saturday night game.
Saturday night reaction show. Now I know why everyone goes live on midnight when all the games are over, because I still have information overload watching this stuff. Clinton, holy smokes, what a day of college football it was. It started with, there's no way Indiana's a playoff team. Gar, 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 gar. To, is Indiana still going to host a home playoff game this year? Question mark. As the SEC poops all over itself repeatedly, over and over and over again. Boy, it's been, listen, we get the, what's the saying go? You know, it always works itself out. You know, it seems like the last 2 weeks there's been a lot
Ball don't lie.
There's been a lot of consternation of, oh my gosh, how are we going to get all these teams in here? Oh, we can't get these 12 teams. Oh my God, we're going to end up leaving out Tennessee, or someone good's going to get left out. And oh my God, what are we going to do with SMU? Can't leave a one-loss SMU out, blah, 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 blah. To now we're having a conversation of, is South Carolina going to make the playoff at 9-3?
Is Ole Miss really dead at 9-3?
I don't want to listen. People still bring up Northern Illinois for Notre Dame, despite the fact that Notre Dame's beaten the holy shit out of 9 straight teams now. Ole Miss lost to Kentucky, who sucks, and Florida, who they might not suck, but they're still a 500 SEC team. So
they don't suck with DJ Lagway in. They are 4-1 with Lagway starting.
They are looking a lot better with DJ.
Hey, just so we get our LSU piece in, I believe LSU has beaten Vandy or is about to beat Vandy. So Brian Kelly may survive.
I don't know, man. They're only up 14, and Vandy has the ball at midfield.
How much time is left?
There is 7 minutes and 39 seconds left in this game. They were chanting "Fire Kelly" at this game today when they went. You hate to see it. You hate to see it. Live on the YouTube channel here. You guys, if you're watching, you know where to find us. If you are listening in the podcast stream now on Sunday morning for the first time, make sure you're subscribed to that YouTube channel at ITPCFB. Maybe we'll go live Saturday night next week, Clinton.
I think we should, to wrap up the regular season. I won't be able to go live on Big Ten Championship weekend because I will be there.
No, we're going to
hopefully watching my Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah, so our schedule is going to be a little funky next week because of Thanksgiving. I think our Thursday
Turkey Day
episode we are going to do on Wednesday next week. So you'll get us Monday, Wednesday this week. My parents
just in time for all your travel. You can listen to us.
Yes, there will be certainly a lot of things to discuss because that Wednesday show will have some playoff rankings to talk about. So that'll be exciting. And boy, do we have a lot to discuss tonight, Clinton, here.
We're not even in our own conference yet.
Not even. Yeah, I know. We're not even. I mean, I think obviously our thing is Big Ten football, Midwest football. But now at this point in the year, there are things that are going to happen elsewhere throughout the country that are directly impacting what is happening in the Big Ten. And a case in point of that is our first game today. Ohio State 38, Indiana. I wrote down 17. They didn't score 17.
It's 15.
15. That's right. I'm like, what? I totally missed that. This was such a weird game, Clinton, because on the one hand, after the first drive of the game, it didn't feel close at all. Like at no point in this game did I think that Indiana was going to win, even after that first drive, because a lot of the stuff that I was seeing, there's one of the betting guys that I follow was talking about how there's a lot of money to be made by betting against Ohio State in the first quarter and then on Ohio State the rest of the game because they start slow. It seems like
especially in the third quarter.
We saw it against Penn State a couple of weeks ago. Penn State drives down the field, a 7.5-minute drive. They couldn't punch it in. Ohio State turns the ball over on the first pass of the game, and then Ohio State wiped the floor with them for the last 50 minutes of that game. And that's what it felt like today. Despite that, They benefited from Indiana's punter not being able to catch a football and setting up a 7-yard touchdown
I'll give him
drive.
a slight benefit of the doubt. It was raining here, so I'm sure the ball was wet. But
it was very moist, as Joel Klatt kept saying. The ball squirted out a couple of times.
Moist and squirted. 2 terms you don't typically hear during a football game. Speaking of the Pornhub channel from two episodes ago, that might be the certain site that you look those words up on, friends.
Dude, I got a sound for next time I'm gonna pull up. It's gonna be really funny.
Oh my god.
From Benny, is Bama okay? No, Benny, Bama is not okay.
Bama is dead, Benny. They are done.
There's 4 minutes left in this game, unless like the craziest thing that has ever happened in a college football game happens. Bama is not winning this game. They will be a 3-loss team as well. Oh, and by the way, Clinton Diego.
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M just scored.
Just took the lead.
Texas A&M is extra point pending, up 3 on Auburn now. They were down 21-0 in this game, and Clinton Diego Pavia just scored. LSU is only up, again, extra points pending, 7 points on Vanderbilt. I got my beer. A lot is happening. I might have to run upstairs and get another beer the way that this night is going, my friend. This is fun. But okay, so Indiana, they gifted Ohio State a touchdown, starting the drive at the 7-yard line, and then first drive out of halftime, Kaleb Downs. My God, that was so good. What was it? I think I saw on the Twitter, best spin move since Braxton Miller? Question mark.
Yeah, but dude, when I watched him run that live, first of all, I had to catch up because I had to get Owen down for his nap, come downstairs. My phone's away from me. I don't want anything because I'm sitting here thinking, all right, we're up 14-7. I'm sorry, 21-7. No, 14-7. Indiana's got the ball come out of the half. And then I accidentally glance my eyes up to my top TV and see we're up 21-7. I'm like, okay.
You blew it.
Well, I didn't see how we scored it. So I'm like, don't look at that anymore. And then 2 plays later, Downs freaking houses it.
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, baby. He didn't even look like he was running fast, although he was.
No, he
looked like, do you remember watching Terrell Pryor run with those long strides, and he just never looked fast? Downs is not 6'6", but he looked like a gazelle running across that field. And he just left everybody in the dust after that spin move.
Great blocking downfield. I think CJ Hicks had a really nice block at like the 20-yard line to help seal that one off. Indiana's defense didn't really play all that poorly this game. And granted, I mean, you get a short touchdown drive and then a special teams drive that kind of skews it. And who knows what happens if, Indiana gets that punt off, if Downs calls a fair catch and then Ohio State has to drive the length of the field. Maybe we're having a different conversation. But it wasn't like offensively Ohio State was – it didn't feel quite like a pick-your-score type of game from the Ohio State offensive perspective. But Jim Knowles dialed up a ton of pressure on Curtis Rourke, and every time up until that last drive of the game, he dropped back to throw the football. It seemed like he had about 2 seconds to throw, and then he was getting smacked.
Yep.
They had no answer for the Ohio State pass rush in this game, and because of that, what they have? They had 77 yards the first drive of the game, and then they had.
I have that right here for you. They had 70 yards on the first drive. They had 151 total in the entire game. 81 yards the rest of the game after that first drive. That is absurd. That's worse than the 16 yards of offense against Michigan in the second half.
Yeah.
Because you at least moved the ball in the first half.
Now, I will say they were having some success running on first down.
They have 2 really good running backs, man. 2 really good running backs.
I think a lot of the rushing stats get skewed, 1 by the sack yardage, but then 2, they lost 20 yards on that punt, which goes against the team rushing total. So that skews it a little bit too. And sitting there watching, and I'm like, just run the ball more. And then I'm thinking that this was like midway through the third quarter at this point, and then they ran twice and got stuffed. I'm like, all right, well, that's why I'm not a coach. I thought that Will Howard might have put himself in the Heisman discussion with this game. He started outstanding. That touchdown pass to Egbuka was just picture perfect, dropped it in a bucket. And he looks like he has command of this offense. And, I thought their offensive line played pretty well today. Missed some blocks, had some run stuffs, but the way that they were able to, get the ball out quick, roll him out of the pocket to kind of get that offensive line settled in and let them get their feet under them in this game. Felt like the perfect offensive game plan, and they executed it really well. I mean, I get that, they only had the 1 long touchdown drive in the first half, but they finished strong, and I mean, put an exclamation point on this game, man. I mean, when you beat a team, we'll get to the Indiana discourse in a second, but when you beat a team to the point where people are now like, is this a playoff team? It's definitely a notable win for Ohio State.
Certainly. Another piece to that 151 yards before I kind of dive in here, that was the fewest yards by an AP ranked opponent since 2007.
That's insane.
That Ohio State held them to. Listen, when your defense plays like that and they generate that much pressure, 5 sacks. Fox said 6, ESPN says 5. So we'll call it 5.5. And 8 TFLs. Not to mention all the added pressure Rourke was under. Rourke had a couple wide receivers he missed who were open because he had to get rid of the ball so fast. He didn't have a chance. And if this was the Ohio State pass rush you would have seen who played Oregon, who never got to Dylan Gabriel, this game might have been a little different. Curtis Rourke would have been able to eat him up a little bit because he had some open players. Again, this is a good Indiana team. They had a botch punt and a punt return TD, 2 special teams plays that completely flipped this game. Would they have won? Probably not, but it might have been a much more interesting game. Ohio State had a 4th and goal that they ran out of pistol and got stuffed on when they should have just quarterback sneaked it 2 times in a row. They would have had a touchdown there. Well, Howard also got picked in the red zone today. Ohio State I think Ohio State was 87, probably maybe 90% in the red zone this year, and they were not that efficient today. So they, again, could have been a little worse. Where else did I have this year? Overall, I was pretty impressed. You mentioned the offensive line, again, for playing shuffle the O-line again, and had to do it in 2 days to get ready for a team. I didn't hear Kamara's name called one time today. Did he have a sack?
I don't know if he had a sack. I think he had a TFL or 2. He made a couple of nice plays in the first half, but the second half, they swallowed them up big time.
And then what did we say in the Pick'em show, though? Indiana's going to hang around for the first half.
Yep.
It comes to the second half where depth and talent are going to wear you out and beat you, and that is exactly what happened in this game. Ohio State, impressive win. I'm going to say something nice about Indiana, too, and then I'm going to get into a little bit of the Cignetti and end-of-game thing. Indiana is still a playoff team in my eyes.
Yep.
Again, 2 special teams penalties cost you a game. Otherwise, they played pretty solid. You also this is the best pass rush, sorry, Michigan, that you faced all year because Ohio State's pass rush is completely different now.
Yep.
They attack, they do stunts. Jack Sawyer looped around 2 different guys and came through the middle and sacked Rourke. Rourke didn't have a second to do anything. This team is attacking you from all angles now. If this team does this to everyone, they're going to be in the national championship because their talent is too good everywhere else. Now, Indiana, like I said, still a playoff team. I think they should be in there. They're going to finish 11-1. Poor Purdue is about to get, I don't even want to know how bad Cignetti's going to murder them next week after this loss. He's probably going to put 100 on them. Now, let's get to Mr. Cignetti. All I see across social media at the end of this game is Ryan Day's a dick. Ryan Day's a loser. Ryan Day's a bitch. Can't believe he scored that touchdown. Travion Henderson has more heart than his coach. Listen up, chumps. Kirk Cignetti walked into the middle of a basketball court in the offseason and said, Purdue sucks. That's your rival. Well, then he followed it up with, Michigan and Ohio State suck too. If you don't think Ohio State took that just a little bit personal, then I think you're misunderstanding. The other thing is, Ryan, I don't know how much you believe it, but I've watched this team all year. Ohio State called the dogs off in the fourth quarter. If you watch what they did on offense, they were not trying to score because when they wanted to score, they scored. They were running the ball, they went 3 and out, and then they'd punt it. So, Cignetti gets the ball back. I'm not saying Indiana shouldn't be trying to score, but they score. The game's clearly over, and then he goes for 2. I think that rubbed Ohio State the wrong way a little bit, and I think Ryan Day said a big, excuse my language, fuck you, and he went and scored. So I don't want to hear the crying about Ryan Day because this is a lose-lose for this guy. He either doesn't win by enough, and he's not tough and he's soft, or he goes out and steps on someone's throat, and now he's a bully. I don't care. Get over it. You put your players on the field just like Ohio State does. Get a stop. Grow some nuts and get a stop. That's all I have for that. Just get over. Stop your whining. You're still going to get in the playoff. You're not as good as Ohio State. It's not going to happen.
We saw Ryan Day go on a tirade against a 90-year-old man last year. He is 100% the type of softy who would hear a tongue-in-cheek comment at a fucking pep rally and get offended by it.
Dude, I would totally get offended by it too. I would go step on your throat.
Clinton. The entire Ohio State fan base is offended by it.
It's just not Ohio State, though.
You're all the same.
It's me as a
You're all soft.
It's me as a competitor. I would have went out. I wouldn't have called the dogs off in the fourth quarter. I would have blistered your ass
for the whole game. The whole conversation about it is stupid too, because Henderson should have scored there, and I'm pretty sure he just slid down because that's like ingrained in his brain, like just melt the clock. But at that point, it was like they weren't.
You didn't really need to, right?
It wasn't like it was a 1-point game where you needed to slide down to just kill the clock because they still could have come back with a touchdown. Like you should have just ran the ball in.
Yep. So great move by Henderson, though. I madly respect that. That was awesome, man. Indiana, though, you're still a great team. Don't take my crapping on your coach at the very end there. I love Cignetti. I think Indiana's a wonderful team. I think Rourke is still a really good NFL prospect quarterback. They just ran into a buzzsaw today. So, Ryan, I now ask you as my last question to wrap this game up. Is Indiana still a playoff team after this game?
Yes.
Why?
Because
without the SEC chaos argument, I want you to go back to Ryan right after Indiana lost.
I still thought so, yes, because I don't think that we should be judging teams based on their worst day or their best day. You have to look at you take it into account. And the bad thing for Indiana is that this game happened when it did, right? Like if this happened week 5 and then the rest of the season's played out as it did, I think that we'd maybe overlook that a little bit more, because I think Notre Dame's the perfect example. You lose to NIU, and the discourse after that game is your season's over. You lose to NIU, shouldn't be in, blah, 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 blah. And my thought on the matter was, well, if they went out, they're fine. But the issue is when you lose to NIU, anything else is on the table. When you lose at the end of the year, you're kind of removing, like, you're not giving yourself the benefit of the doubt, because yes, we're all prisoners of the moment. We all have recency bias, whether we admit it or not. But completely ignoring that, like, what you do at the end of the season is more of a marker of where your team is at right now. And it is a little bit easier to overlook the body of work if you look and say, okay, well, sure, maybe you beat so-and-so by, you beat the crap out of Nebraska, but that happened in the middle of October, and we just saw you 2 weeks before before conference championship game weekend. You got your butt kicked by Ohio State, and we're going to remember that a little bit more because it happened more recently. I do think, though, that when you're looking at a 12-game sample size, you have, as hard as it is sometimes, and as much as we want to cling to those outlier results because that's, what gets the clicks, that's what sticks out like the sore thumb, you still have to look at the overall body of work. And I mean, based on that, Indiana's played playoff level football for the majority of this year. I get the schedule's not great, but when let me phrase it this way. Like, think about your average football team who's like ranked that you would consider between the 20th and the 60th best team in the FBS. What do you think the average difference between those teams is?
Probably not much.
Exactly. I would
One
argue,
game.
So this is from Tyler Shoemaker. He writes for VSiN, and he's one of those Vegas guys who does his own like power rankings projections for the purpose of making betting lines. In his thesis, I don't know if thesis is the right word, his hypothesis or his statement is it's more impressive beating the crap out of the 50th best team in the country than it is beating the 20th best team by 3 points. Because the average, like the difficulty level between those two teams ultimately is not that great. And we're kind of seeing this play out across the sport today, Clinton, because we got a now 8-3 Bama team who got their shit kicked in by an Oklahoma team who had one SEC win. They're 1-5 in the SEC, Clinton.
See ya.
They benched two quarterbacks this year. This is not a good Oklahoma team. I don't want to sit here. I swear to God, if I have to listen to, well, actually, Oklahoma's a good team takes tomorrow, I'm going to lose my fucking mind because people have been trying to fire Brent Venables for 3 weeks because this team is so bad. And they just beat the shit out of Alabama.
Crushed them.
Like, what are we doing here? Why are we having this conversation about Indiana when we should be having it about the SEC at large? Why is Indiana the only team that we're having this conversation about when teams ranked 7 through 15 all have warty resumes and they've not looked good for long swatches of the year?
Yeah,
at least Indiana's looked good at least Indiana beat the crap out of people for 9 weeks.
Absolutely.
They did not have a game that was in doubt for the first 2.5 months of the season.
Yeah.
That has to count for something.
Say what you want about their schedule difficulty. They crushed everybody. I don't see Georgia crushing Kentucky. You don't.
Georgia gave up 200 rushing yards to UMass today. UMass got kicked out of the MAC because they suck so much.
Yes. Indiana would throttle Kentucky. Indiana would throttle Vandy. Vandy, who knocked off Alabama. Indiana is not some whimsical team. They can't beat someone this year. They're a good team. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to get in the playoff, and they're going to take what Ohio State did to them, and they're going to get better from it. Mm-hmm. You know that from their coach. They're going to say, hey, look at all this. The way they attacked us, the way they did this. This is what we have to do to be better. Are they going to win the national championship? No. Could they go into the first playoff game and get shellacked? Sure.
Anyone could.
That's what I'm saying. You can't just make the argument that Indiana shouldn't be in, and what is it? You're just speculating by saying these 5 SEC teams are better than Indiana. How do you know that? How can you prove that? First of all, you lose your argument when they all have multiple losses, and Indiana has 1 to the number 2 team in the country. If we want to give Ohio State the crutch that their 1 loss is to the number 1 team in the country, Indiana's only loss is to the number 2 team in the country.
Clinton, Texas A&M legitimately could play for the SEC title game, and they were down 21-0 to a terrible Auburn team today.
Who may beat Alabama next week.
Your potential SEC champion could have been down to Auburn by 3 touchdowns in the first half of a game 2 weeks before the SEC title game.
Oh, man. I think A&M just got away with a pass interference, too. He definitely hit him early and pushed him out of bounds. That's why the pass is incomplete. Uh-oh. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But also, again, look at Texas today. They didn't look impressive against Kentucky.
No!
They struggled. Look at them last week against Arkansas. They struggled. There is no elite SEC team. I'm not saying that Georgia can't get in and win it all, or that Texas can't get in and win it all. I'm not saying that. I'm just let the bias go. But it's hard when ESPN hosts the playoff show and they host all the playoff games or have all their hands in the money of the playoff games, and they're also in bed with the SEC contract. I think the SEC is spiteful to the Big Ten. Not the SEC. ESPN is spiteful to the Big Ten for giving them a big FU and going with Fox because Fox offered them more money. I don't know what else to say. Otherwise, like, you can't ignore. I saw people arguing today that Oregon and Ohio State aren't that good. Like, excuse me, what? These were SEC people. I'm like, have you watched your own conference?
They might be the only 2 good teams this year.
Yes, we should all be pining for them to play 3 times. So did you get the 2 best teams in college football?
Oh, I can't. I can't anymore. I can't.
And yet, everyone's say we're biased because we do a Big Ten / Notre Dame podcast, but I'm just telling you, they're the 2 most consistent teams. And if you ask me who's been better after the Ohio State-Oregon game, Ohio State has been better.
Clinton,
outside of the Nebraska. I get it. Nebraska was poo.
Clinton,
but
I promise you, if Georgia had a brain-dead loss in week 2 and proceeded to beat 9 straight opponents by an average of 5 touchdowns,
people would be drooling all over them.
I would be sitting here telling you that you're an idiot for thinking Ohio State could beat them.
Yeah.
But no. Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois, so it doesn't matter what they've done since because we stopped paying attention to them. We stopped paying attention to them 11 weeks ago.
Yep. Absolutely.
I can tell who's not watched a down of Notre Dame football this year.
Ryan, it's really hard for me because you guys are just beating everybody else's ass, and I just turn on a different game that's closer. I'm impressed by Notre Dame, but I'm not a Notre Dame fan, so it's hard for me to stay fully invested. I was invested week 1 when they beat A&M. I was also invested in week 2 when they lost to Northern Illinois. But You guys have just blown everyone out. So I'm like, well, there's this Alabama-Oklahoma game on, or this Auburn-Texas A&M game on, which Auburn might be about to lose because it is 4th and 2, and we have an A&M timeout. Of course, always stoppages of play. But I don't know, man. Like, Indiana's in. You cannot tell me any way, shape, or form that Indiana should not be in this playoff at 11-1. There was a couple people out there that we interact with on Twitter, some of these college football pages, and both had a question of where should Indiana be ranked. I said 7 to 8th.
Yeah.
And that was before I finished these results of the day. But 7 to 8.
I mean,
I don't think you can drop them that far.
We dropped Penn State 3 spots for scoring 0 offensive touchdowns against Ohio State. And
at least Indiana scored.
Getting outscored, 20-3 over the last 50 minutes of that game?
Yep.
How is this any different?
And then Penn State. We're not to that game yet. Penn State's going to get flack on Tuesday night. Well, they just barely beat a 6-5 Minnesota Gophers team. Well, you guys haven't watched Minnesota play football all year.
No,
they're a good team. They've lost some games they probably shouldn't have, but they're a good team. If we're going to sit here and argue, damn it, that Auburn's a good team, I'd take Minnesota over Auburn.
I agree.
In the blink of an eye.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this, Glenn, and we can talk about. I want to talk about this playoff conversation at large before we move on to the other games. Would you jump Notre Dame over Penn State?
What a big run by Peyton, former Michigan State Thorn. He is going to be a thorn in the side of Texas A&M's defense there. Would I jump Notre Dame over Penn State? I mean, Notre Dame has been purely dominant in their victories. Penn State has not. You could argue Minnesota is better than Navy and Army. That's fine. But
I wouldn't go there with Army. I could say Navy. I would not go there with Army.
I would with Army. But I would say, though, I'm a believer of you should get credit for your beating a team if they're ranked at the time you beat them. It shouldn't just disappear. I'm not saying you should weight everything on it. If Army was 23rd in the country to start the season and they lost every single game after Notre Dame beat them or whatever, then fine. But we're late in the season, right? And this is a 24th ranked. Was it 24th, 23rd?
Army?
Yeah.
They were 19th.
19th ranked Army. You beat a ranked Navy. That has to count for something, right? Whether or not they stay ranked, although I personally don't think Army should fall out of the rankings after.
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't get.
I mean, if we're going to leave Missouri in with 3 losses,
Missouri lost to a number 23 South Carolina.
Army's going to be playing for their conference title and might win it. Mm-hmm. So I don't think you should shit on them. Do I think Notre Dame should jump Penn State?
So
I'm not going to give the argument to say, well, if they played on a neutral field.
No, you should.
At this point, I'm going to say yes. I think I would probably jump Notre Dame over Penn State.
So during this 9-game win streak, Notre Dame has outscored opponents 399 to 92. That's a lot of points. I'm not going to do the math right now because I don't know how to do math. But Notre Dame now also has the best point differential in FBS. They have a point differential of plus 301. Yep. I don't care where your schedule ranks. I know there's going to now be conversations about, well, Notre Dame's schedule isn't that good. If you're beating teams by...
Oh, Maeva had him wide open.
Oh, I'm not like... I got that on the iPad. And, oh, yeah, he was wide. Oh, the ref with the box out. The ref with the box out.
Yep.
Unreal.
Oh, my God. This damn umpire's always in the way. So,
I say that, Clinton, because Nicole Auerbach, who is a fellow Big Ten fan, she works for NBC. She's on the good side. As of right now, here's how Joshua Perry and I would set up the college football playoff bracket. We'll discuss more at halftime of USC UCLA on NBC. This is assuming I'm guessing this is just assuming Oregon. I don't know if they're projecting out the conference title games. I think this is just based on who's first. So they have Oregon at 1, Texas at 2, Miami at 3, Boise at 4. So Ohio State is the 5th seed. They have Notre Dame at 6 with Penn State at 7.
I think that's fair.
Then Georgia at 8, Tennessee at 9, Indiana at 10, SMU at 11, Arizona State at 12. Clinton, that sets up, if that ends up happening, that would set up very well for Notre Dame and Ohio State to get very favorable matchups into the quarterfinals. Ohio State playing Arizona State and then Boise. Like, come on.
Totally should be a home game. Ohio State should have to go to the Smurf turf.
And And then Notre Dame would get SMU in the first round and then Miami in the second. I like that matchup for Notre Dame on both accounts. Since
Absolutely.
they beat the shit out of ACC teams. That's kind of their kink, is
Yeah.
obliterating ACC teams. So I'm interested to see kind of what happens with that. I wonder, again, I mean, Army was 19th this week. Clearly, the committee has their schedule's bad. They have not really played, literally have not played anyone this
They've
year.
dominated.
Yes. But the committee clearly.
Wait a second. Don't we know another team whose schedule's not great and has dominated everyone and was ranked 5th this week? Oh, that's right. That's Indiana.
Yep.
So you guys can shove it up your, you know where.
Who's shoving it?
The committee.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
If they want to try to drop them.
But so clearly the committee had some respect for Army because they were ranked 19th and Notre Dame just beat them 49-14. And the game was not even really that close. I yelled at my TV at one point because Mike Denbrock's goal line offense was pissing me off in this game, running up the middle 8 times, getting 0 yards each time. And when you go wide, you scored both times. Stop it.
Watching Marcus Freeman's face on the sideline for those was priceless. He's
listen. Did you hear his halftime interview?
Mm-mm.
They were up 28-7. Army had 6 first half possessions. They had the 1 touchdown drive. They went 3 and out 4 times and fumbled once. That was Army's first half on offense. And he sounded pissed in this halftime interview. That's my ball coach.
They didn't look violent enough.
That's my
Loved his opening game interview. Coach, what are you looking for from your team today? Violence. I'm like, hell yes. Marcus Freeman's going to make me buy a Notre Dame piece of article. Good Lord. A piece of clothing or an article of Notre Dame clothing.
Jarquez.
Get in there. Oh, my God. He fell down. Son.
Is that Jarquez Hunter? I just assumed.
You walking in, buddy. The grass monster got you because it's not turf. Because no, in the SEC, we actually have real grass.
I mean, this is at least earmarked for overtime here. We're talking A&M Auburn right now with Auburn at the 6 yard
Auburn's
line.
gonna score.
Dude, I don't know. Clock's still rolling. You got to be
better
careful.
move.
Yeah, you got to be careful here. You're gonna have to field goal fire drill this one. You got to take a shot to the end zone.
No, he's got to take a shot to the end zone.
You got to stop the clock because if you get sacked, this game's over. Who took the? Did A&M take a timeout?
A&M take a timeout? Oh, you're aiding them too. I wouldn't have done that.
No. Yeah, you.
I'd make them be under duress. They must have really been mismatched then.
Yeah, you let them go their fire drill.
Elko's got a big old belly. I did not notice that at Duke.
He's a big boy.
Big dude.
Anyway, so this was 49-17 Clinton, and this game was not even really that close because Notre Dame got stuffed at 4th and goal because they were running. I don't know what the hell they were doing on offense. They had 2 field goals blocked. I had a chuckle. It was their second drive of the second half. They had like a 3rd down and 9, and instead of throwing it, they just ran it up the middle to try to set up an easy field goal for Mitch Jeter, who has been battling a groin injury. Yeah, this one got blocked. It was a 30-yard field goal right down the middle, got blocked. He's had a groin injury since before the Georgia Tech game, and he clearly is not right, though he did make a nice tackle after and sprinted. His groin looked fine on that one. But that's that field goal game could potentially kill Notre Dame as soon as next week if they fart around in LA. But yeah, man, Jeremiah Love might be the most dynamic skill position player that Notre Dame has had in my lifetime. And
I wouldn't call the bus dynamic though.
No, he was not dynamic. He was really
He's
good.
a truck stick, a human truck stick.
He had
Auburn just got a penalty, false start. Oh my God.
That's a runoff. That's a 10-second. Oh wait, no, the clock was stopped. It's not a runoff. I lied.
This is like Pitt from last week.
That was that was comical. Anyway, Jeremiah Love, 7 carries for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns in this one. Riley Leonard was 10 of 13 for 148 yards, 2 scores. He was on the bench by midway through the third quarter as they got Steve Angeli some game time. And Notre Dame averaged 9.4 yards per carry and ran for almost 300 yards in this game. It was
the same Steve Angeli you guys are ready to bench Riley Leonard for?
Yeah. Oh. You
got to throw the ball, son.
Oh, my Lance.
Just throw it away and live to play overtime.
I thought that he was going to get sacked there. Oh, my gosh. We're going to get Clinton. If we get overtime in this game on our first ever Saturday night reaction
it's
show,
meant to be. It's golden.
Yeah, man. I was really impressed with Notre Dame's defense in this game, too. I mean, we talked about this on Thursday. Army is not your traditional Or they
Hey,
are your
Ryan, real
traditional.
quick. Auburn has 9 missed field goals on the season. They are 8 for 17, standing
Okay.
at 47% on field goals.
All right, you're ahead of me
There's
here, so
a
don't. Here we go. All
okay.
right, we're all
I'll be
watching this together.
stoic.
I'm taking my
I will be.
headphones off.
I'll be stoic.
Oh my God, we're getting overtime. Oh my God, we're getting overtime.
Wait,
This
has he
is
kicked it
exciting.
yet?
Wait, are you shitting me?
I saw it. We were at the
Okay.
exact same time. I was not ahead of you.
Okay. I know Army is not your traditional passing powerhouse of an option team, but Notre Dame allowed 26 yards passing. They allowed 207 yards on the ground, but Army ran the ball 58 times. That is 3.6 yards per
Army
carry.
also averages like 380 yards a game.
Yeah,
So that's a
that's
pretty
remarkable
good
defense.
total.
Remarkable defense in this one. KVA, their stud freshman linebacker, did not play in the second half. His knee was wrapped at the side on the sideline, so that's certainly not good. He's had a really good year. They're fine at linebacker without him, but he's definitely a guy from a depth perspective that you would prefer to have on the field because he's a really good player. So that's something notable. They just got to win in LA, man. They traditionally do not play well in LA, even when they're good and USC is bad, and they are good and USC is bad. So I'm hoping that this newfound killer mentality that Marcus Freeman has translates and they just end the Lincoln Riley era next week. I think that'd be pretty funny.
Well, I think you definitely could have an end of Lincoln Riley era if they lose this game to UCLA and Notre Dame.
So
You
something
end your season with back-to-back rivalry losses, and you already mentioned whatever they did with Lincoln Riley now makes them able to fire him without paying him the rest of his deal.
I mean, they in theory could fire him for cause because of the minor recruiting violations that have incurred, and he would likely sue and they would likely pay a settlement, but they would at least get out of some of the buyout in that instance. Something else I heard too, one of the Notre Dame podcasts I listened to, John Bryce from Football Scoop is on, and because there was a report this week that Marcus Freeman might garner NFL head coaching interest, which very much felt like a planted story by his agent to drive up the value of his contract and the extension that he will likely get if Notre Dame wins next week and makes the playoffs. But Bryce was saying that he was talking to an NFL assistant who speculated that there could be as many as 12 NFL head coaching jobs open
The
this
Bengals
year.
being one.
That is a lot of NFL coaching jobs, and Lincoln Riley is a guy who there's been some rumored NFL discussion in the past. I don't know if his stars kind of fallen by the wayside with.
I swear to God, if the Bengals hired him, I'm quit. I quit.
That's Clinton's 13th reason.
I'd rather keep Zach Taylor.
So yeah, maybe that's a soft landing for Lincoln Riley as he gets an NFL job. Anyway, anything else you wanted to talk about with? I guess we could have the playoff conversation at large because I kind of just skipped the rest of that. So your hashing of the question to me, Clinton, was does IU belong in the playoffs? And that was before the madness that happened. And if you've lived under a rock at all today and you were just joining us for the first time, Ole Miss lost to Florida and Alabama lost to Oklahoma. Entering the day today, both of those teams were 5-5 and unranked. Not good losses, Clinton, 2 weeks before the end of the regular season. So we are now in a situation where we looked like we had too many SEC teams for the back half of the playoff, and now it looks like 2 of those teams will not be playoff participants, with both Ole Miss and Bama picking up their third loss of the season.
At least we think. We'll see how Tuesday night goes.
Yes. So we're in a position now, Clinton. I have no earthly clue what the top 12 is going to look like next week.
It's going to be fun doing our rankings for Monday. We actually have an intriguing ranking.
I know. I put literally 3 seconds of effort into it last week because I just moved 2 teams around and everything else stayed the same. But especially if A&M blows it in overtime here, because they were 15th, they're going to fall down.
Spicy.
I'm curious to see how far both of these teams drop because those are not good losses, man. Like, not that there's no mincing words about it. I get with the DJ Lagway point you made with Florida being 4-1 with him. He still has 1.5 hamstrings. He's not.
And they're going to pound Florida State next week.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God.
They're going to finish 7-5.
That's good. I mean, and listen, good for Billy Napier.
Absolutely,
because he's undergone. He has not gotten. If they fired him, he would not have gotten a fair shake. Because
imagine if Lagway would have started all season.
Well, yeah, but maybe he wasn't ready, and maybe you ruin his confidence, and now you are getting fired because you keep him on the bench until you're sure he can contribute because that's still your trump card, right? Like you can sell the hope.
Yeah, because the sell was if I leave, he's leaving.
Yes.
That was very well known.
You don't want that now. He's good. He looks
He is
really
good.
damn good.
And you can utilize. Florida has tons of money, and it's Florida. You can use the NIL and transfer portal to bring in whoever the hell you want to put around him.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, they have the 590-pound kid that plays defensive tackle.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's draft eligible, but he doesn't look like an NFL guy per se due to size. So let's bring him back next year and plug 3 holes at once.
That's disgusting.
Oh my god, that was unintended. Boy, we are going to end up on Pornhub.
That's not great.
Oh god,
not great, Bob. Not great. Yeah, man. So I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to talk playoff wise, but my assumption is that at least one of Bama or Ole Miss is definitively out. They both should definitively be out. Like, give me SMU, who with 1 loss 10 times out of 10 before any of this. And I mean,
but Heather Dinich and Booger McFarland are going to walk on that freaking show Tuesday night. Like, well, they have 3 losses, but the SEC is just so tough. It's a really tough conference. If we put SMU in there, they'd have 5 losses. You don't know that. You cannot prove that.
No. The best thing that could happen for the SEC is the Big 12 just cannibalizing itself right now with BYU losing to. Did you see the end of that Arizona State game today?
I missed it.
So Arizona State got a pick and returned it to the 5-yard line with less than 2 minutes left. So the game should have been over. And they just completely blew the clock killing situation. They ended up losing yardage, and they tried to do the thing. There was 8 seconds left, and they had 4th and goal from the 30 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So they tried to do the thing where they snapped it to Sam Levitt in the shotgun, have him just drop back another 10 yards and just throw it as far as he could out of bounds to kill the clock. And everyone rushed the field. And then they reviewed it and said there was still a second left on the clock.
Oh, God.
So it ended up being a 25-minute delay while they reviewed this and tried to get everyone off the field. And then Jake Retzlaff completed the Hail Mary, but it was 2 yards short of the end zone.
Oh, God.
So BYU almost won. BYU almost ended up winning. But alas, BYU lost their 2nd straight game. So now they're completely out of any playoff discussion short of somehow still getting into the Big 12 title game, which I'm not sure they even control their own destiny now.
Probably should get some clarity on that by tomorrow.
I think it's a 4-way tie right now. And I think what I saw was if it ends in a 4-way tie, it would be Arizona State versus Iowa State, maybe.
It'd be fun.
But anyway, with Colorado losing as well, the Big 12 is essentially doomed itself to being a 1-bid league regardless of what happens.
Just imagine if this Kansas team that's won the last 2 weeks would have showed up the entire season, they would have won the Big 12.
Yep. That's what another tweet I saw today was the Big 12's best team might not even make a bowl game because Kansas needs to win next week to qualify for a bowl. And they've beaten 3 straight. I think it's the first time. I have
Kansas
no idea.
State?
No, I think that's I think Farmageddon is next week. Kansas State, Iowa State. I think.
Okay. Gotcha.
But what was I going to say? Oh, I think it was the first time in FBS history that a team was 3 games below 500 and won 3 straight ranked games. I think.
They're good, man.
I might not have phrased that entirely
Does
correctly.
Jalen Daniels have another year of eligibility?
I mean, I don't think he played last year, so I think he would have.
He's got to have something, right?
He'd have
he has no NFL future.
Probably not. First down for A&M.
A&M, yep.
I am an A&M fan because it helps Notre Dame. Also, I really, really, really want A&M to be 9-2 going into that game next week against Texas. That would be so fun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that, and that's the other thing too. Now with what's happened elsewhere in the SEC, I don't know that game is necessarily now a playoff elimination game for Texas if they were to lose it. Whereas if Ole Miss and Bama won today, I think it might have been. Mm-hmm. So Texas is a big winner today too. I don't know if we can definitively say they've clinched a playoff berth regardless of what happens.
We're gonna get Texas-Georgia rematch if A&M loses.
If A&M loses,
that would be Tennessee lost to Georgia, so it'd be Texas-Georgia would be my guess. Georgia somehow worked themselves into there.
Yeah, I don't. These super conferences, man. I don't know. I can't keep track of who's and what the tiebreakers are. It's just ridiculous. And UCLA turns the ball over on downs, and Ethan Garbers does not look happy.
Did the umpire block him out again?
I think
He was near.
They ran a crossing route. I think someone might have run the wrong route. I don't know. That replay didn't divulge any details. Oh, he threw it right over his head. Oh, the receiver was not looking for the ball. Touchdown, Aggies!
What do you have to start 1 for 2 in the second?
Second one.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else you want to kind of touch on playoff, like at large?
Not particularly, no.
Because the next game also, I don't know if it's interesting playoff implications, maybe more so from a seeding standpoint. Penn State 26, Minnesota 25. This was a damn fun game in Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
Penn State, Ohio State, and Minnesota at the end with a clock-killing drive the last 5 minutes of the game. I don't know what PJ Fleck was doing on that last offensive goal-to-go series for Minnesota, because if you're going to kick the field goal, why didn't you try to be more aggressive early in it instead of just running up the middle? So with like 5.5 minutes to go, Minnesota is down 4. They have a 1st and goal. They end up kicking a field goal, which I think was the right decision, right? You make it a 1-point game.
Well, that was my question in here to you: was should he have went for it?
No, I think it was the right call.
I mean, your defense played well enough.
Your defense was playing well all game. You had your timeouts. You trust them to get a stop, and they did. They got the stop. It was a ballsy, gutsy call by James Franklin to fake a punt. I think it was 4th and 5. If you don't get it, you lose that game, man, because Minnesota has to get about
practically starting in field goal range.
And their kicker's got a cannon of a leg too, man. I think they were at like the 36-yard line, so you are in field goal range at that point if you don't get it. But they do, and then they continue to drive the field. I think they picked up another 4th down conversion along the way. Maybe 2 more 4th down conversions. That last play, they play action. They rolled Aller out a little bit. He scrambled back to his left and then hit Tyler Warren for a game-sealing touchdown. Or not touchdown, 1st down. It was a really, really impressive performance by Penn State there towards the end of the game. Kind of up and down performance, which you called it. I did not. I thought that with Minnesota's offensive line issues, Penn State would have a lot more success shutting them down.
1 sack. They gave up 1 sack in this game.
Very good get-right performance by the Minnesota offensive line, and unfortunately for them, it was not quite enough. Any overall thoughts and feelings on this one, Clint?
Just had the 1 sack. I mean, we mentioned that in the Pick'em show. Like, can their offensive line hold up against this Penn State pass rush? I had someone, I don't think it's a Penn State fan. It was Basic Blues podcast, tweeted out that Danny Denies Sutton is a bust. I'm like, he's playing with a groin injury still. That just doesn't disappear in 3 weeks, man.
Nope.
He still has a groin problem. Again, folks, educate yourself or come to Ryan and I. We're physical therapists. We'll let you know. That thing's going to linger for the rest of the season, man. You're lucky he's even playing.
Yep.
The other question was about the Fleck going for it. We just talked about that. I just put on here, man, the fake punt pretty much won PSU the game.
Ballsy.
Nuts of steel moment for James Franklin, man.
He did not coach scared. He did not coach scared in this game.
And then he went for it on 4th down again later that drive.
Yep.
Auburn just got a 1st down with a PI. They already had it 1st down, but they're getting an extra 1st down now. The other note was Penn State's offense was at its best today when they went no huddle. That's when they were their most fluid. Tyler Warren dominates again, leads the team in receiving. He had 2 carries for 0 yards in this game. But again, they can't continue to feature him. I think you've got to figure something else out a little bit before you get into the playoff, because I don't care if you're playing a 1, 2, 3 loss team, whatever. A team in the playoffs is probably going to have a safety who can travel around with Tyler Warren or a nickel. The other thing, I think sometimes Penn State just gets too fancy sometimes, and they get in their own way. You're too much smoke and mirrors. All this shifting around and doing this and doing that, there's something to be said about just lining up and playing your best guys at their spot and moving the ball. It makes me a little nervous about you that you have to constantly use all this smoke and mirrors for you to be successful on offense. Is your base formation of people playing tight end who are tight ends and wide receivers at wide receiver and your quarterback actually at quarterback, is that not good enough? Like, do you have to do all this? We start Tyler Warren at quarterback, and then we motion him out, and Pabula comes in and stands at quarterback, and then we snap the ball and we throw it wide to Aller, who then throws it down the field to Warren. Like, the same 3 people are touching the ball the whole time. you're creative, but are you creative to a fault? Like, a good defense, they're going to have eyes to follow who they should be on, and you're not going to confuse them. So it'll be intriguing to see as we get to the playoff. Maryland is not beating Penn State next week. Penn State is in the playoff.
No.
They're going to be 11-1.
Yeah.
The last piece I have on this, Penn State is now 5-0 on the road for the first time since 1985.
To kind of build off your discussion about the smoke and mirrors and Tyler Warren, Clinton, Penn State was awful running the ball in this game.
Mm-hmm.
If you take out the Luke Reynolds fake punt run, a 32-yard run, they ran the ball 32 times for 82 yards. That is 2.6 yards per carry. Again, this is a good Minnesota defense. We've talked about it before on this show. Minnesota has a very good defense. You're facing the better defenses than Minnesota in the playoff, though.
Mm-hmm.
You're running for 2.6 yards per carry. You can't. They hit Amari Evans for a long touchdown in this one, and we talked about that a couple weeks ago with Matt. He's their deep threat. If they can hit him, that's great. But that's something that teams of a playoff level defense can scheme to take away. And if you're facing some of these other teams that have, like you mentioned, with like a Kaleb, we saw Kaleb Downs more or less take Tyler Warren out of the game. If you end up playing Notre Dame, you're going to be facing Xavier Watts. He's going to take Tyler Warren out of the game. You're facing Georgia. You're facing Malachi Starks. He is going to take Tyler Warren out of the game. How are you going to move the football if you can't rely on this guy? Just lean on him because, you don't have anyone else on offense right now. Running game's not looking fantastic.
I believe I heard
other wide receivers.
If I read this correctly, Katron Allen did not get a touch in the first half.
Jesus.
Not a running touch.
Well,
that's crazy.
He only had 7 for 10 in the second half, so it's not like they were missing.
You have a dynamic duo at running back. You also had your tackle, blanking on his name, that was out for the Ohio State game. He went out again this game, so that's not good for you. They might have lost another offensive lineman too in this one. 2 of them went down. I don't know how long they'd be out, but maybe Penn State's playing the offensive line shuffle game. And then for them, I would argue they probably don't have the offensive line talent depth to try to make this work. But you're right, Ryan. Like, what are you going to do in the playoff, man? Georgia's coming for you. Texas is coming for you. Teams are coming for you who can play defense. You have to figure something out. Like I said, Georgia's going to be unfazed by smoke and mirrors. Kirby Smart is a genius head coach. He's going to run right into that backfield and blow you up. And your fancy isn't going to work. Now, the good thing is Penn State has good enough defense that Carson Beck will probably throw him 4 interceptions and keep him in the game. But I don't know. This is why the 12-teamer gets interesting, right? This is these matchups that you rarely get to see.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be some fun matchups the first round.
And there has been some winter weather in the Midwest this week, folks.
Right.
There's already been some winter weather in the Midwest this week, guys.
I got snowed on.
What just happened there? Why did he stop running?
It's a good question. I don't think he was expecting the ball.
Oh, Lord.
Classic mix-up. Clinton, it finally happened. The Huskers.
Nebraska is
going bowling. They are going bowling. What a performance.
They hit a strike today. Instead of a spare, they got a strike.
They might have hit a turkey today with that performance on offense. 44-25 over Wisconsin. Dylan Raiola. I don't know if it's hyperbolic to say it was his best game of the season, Clinton. 28-38, 293 yards and a touchdown. He did not turn the ball over either.
Oh, they got him at the 1. Flag on the play, though. Doesn't matter. Probably coming back. Yeah, if you look at
rooting for Auburn, root for my happiness.
If you look at Locke and Raiola, they're very similar. Locke threw for 292. However, death taxes and Braden Locke throwing an interception. He is the 100% definition of consistency, folks.
Every game.
Every game. I think he started 10 games and he has 11 interceptions.
Yep. 9 games. 9 games in 10. 9 games in 10.
9 games in 10. Whatever it is. Death taxes and INTs, man. Good Lord. Stop turning the ball over. Wisconsin, get a quarterback.
Yeah, they need someone in the portal.
Huskers good on the ground today. Ran for 180. Sure. Johnson led him with 113, but Dowdell had the racked up the TDs. He had 3 on the game.
Yep.
And then what else did we have? Locke did have 3 TDs to the 1 interception, so he played better.
He did play better.
Badgers had to play this one without Pauling and Wohler, though,
Mm-hmm.
so that certainly hurts. I don't know, Ryan, the Badgers got to beat Minnesota next week to not have a losing season, which would be their first one since 2001 and would end their 22-year bowl streak.
Yep.
Is Luke Fickell on the hot seat, Ryan? Or is he
might
more
be,
on the hot seat if they lose next week?
Well, I think they're going to lose next week, so I think he is going to be. It's going to be a pivotal offseason in Wisconsin, man. You got to make a new offensive coordinator hire. You got to hit that out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you unquestionably have to hit that out of the park because, like, the clock's got to be ticking there on him, man. I know that, like, people were shocked when Wisconsin fired Paul Chryst because they've typically been a patient place. And that kind of signaled that, like, hey, this isn't good enough. We know what we can be, and we need to be better. And they're not even living up to that Paul Chryst standard here.
Nope.
You go 5-7 at Wisconsin, that's pitiful.
Yeah.
And I get that Big Ten's a little different now. You don't have the West to beat up on anymore. You got to play some big boy teams every now and then. But man, they need to hit the offensive coordinator hire out of the park, and they got to hit.
Quarterback portal.
They need to get some of Michigan's money guns going here and get a quarterback out of the portal, man. Because
absolutely,
I don't know if Tyler Van Dyke has eligibility left, and if he does, if you want to go with him.
He's good. I thought he shanked it.
I just looked over and it was dark. I'm like, what's happening? That's a cool light show.
Yeah, all the SEC teams do that. It's pretty cool.
Okay, let's watch this.
Hell of a kick, though. Wait, what? He already kicked it.
What are you talking about?
The Auburn game. He already kicked it. You said, let's watch this. Are you watching the replay?
You said, yeah, because I thought he shanked
it. He's on the right hash, and the way he sent it, I was like, oh my God, he's going to push it left.
No, that looked true right off his foot. Looked true right off his foot. No, man, it's going to be an interesting offseason to follow in Madison because there should be some significant changes afoot. And if those changes don't hit, I think Luke Fickell might not be long for Wisconsin.
Yeah. Might have to hit up Mr. Herrings at the end of the season here and get a little lowdown from Locked On Badgers.
For sure. He'll be a good one to talk to maybe in February, once the season's over, just to kind of get his thoughts because when we did our this was pre-podcast when we did our over-under win totals last year, I thought Wisconsin was going to challenge for the Big Ten West title, and they did not. I didn't necessarily think they'd be great this year, but let me see if I can find I got too many papers stacking up here, Clinton. My desk is becoming... Yeah, I had over 7 wins for Wisconsin. You pushed. We both missed that.
Yeah.
So... it's
our first year doing it.
Yeah,
we'll get better.
They are not living up to expectations.
Absolutely.
Ooh, good run. But anyway, enough about Wisconsin. Good for Nebraska. The bowl drought is over. And they had a graphic on this game. I had this on the quad box, and I don't remember the exact number, but it was just like from a development perspective, this is so big for Nebraska to get those bowl practices with such a young team. In the graphic, it was like extra practices because of bowl prep since Nebraska's last bowl game. Obviously, Nebraska was 0, and for Wisconsin, it was like 100 something.
Mm-hmm. Well, they have 22 years worth.
So much lost development by not making a bowl game. You're not getting that extra practice reps, and especially Emmett Johnson. He is, what is he? A freshman, sophomore? Sophomore.
That I do not know.
Emmett Johnson is a sophomore. He led you in rushing and receiving today. Ja'Cory Barnett, he's a freshman. Your quarterback is a freshman. Getting them an extra 16 practices this year, that is huge, Clinton. Huge for their development going into what will definitely be a pivotal year 3 for Nebraska. And this is the first step, right? Like, I know with how the season started, getting to 6 wins, like even if you lose next week, getting to 6-6, or I guess even if you win and you finish 7-5, it's not an entirely satisfying season given how this started for Nebraska, but like just getting to the bowl game was the first step.
Mm-hmm.
Now you take that next step. You take that next step going forward next year, whether that's...
I think you can officially say this year has been a success.
Yes.
You got to the bowl game. You can get that monkey off your back if you're Matt Rule.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what Rob talked to us about preseason, right? Was what defines success for Nebraska this year is get to a bowl game and everything else is gravy. And You hit the goal. You hit the goal.
Absolutely.
I know the journey wasn't the way that you wanted it to go, but you got there, and that's all that matters. Speaking of journeys, Clinton, this Illinois-Rutgers game was a journey today. Especially in the fourth quarter. Rutgers, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Illinois wins 38-31. They lined up. Illinois was down by 8 with, 10 seconds left? They lined up for a 56-yard field goal. Schiano did I did not like that play by A&M. That was an interesting offensive decision.
Now they got to kick one to tie it.
Yeah, this is a long field goal. It's not an easy field goal.
Rut-row raggy.
Speaking of field goals, Illinois lined up for a 56-yarder to potentially go ahead. Schiano pulled the late ice, and the kick got off anyway. Bielema saw that the kick had no chance of going in, so he decided to go for it. And Luke Altmaier threw a 40-yard touchdown pass with 6 seconds left to win the game.
You want a little ESPN insight on that one, Ryan?
I would love some, Clinton.
So, per ESPN, Illinois coach Brett Bielema sent in a play known as Church to Luke Altmaier. So the quarterback was set to hit a receiver who is to then go down to the ground immediately. The offense would run to the line of scrimmage, spike the ball, and then kick a closer field goal. However, Pat Bryant caught the pass at the 22 and then called his own split-second audible. Seeing a path to the end zone, the star receiver ran across the field on the way to the winning touchdown with 4 seconds left, sending the Illini to a wild 38-31 victory over Rutgers, end quote. And then to cap the day, Mr. Pat Bryant with another monster day, 7 catches, 197 yards. Woo, baby. Big old day.
That was a Gus Johnson making sound you just did right there.
I don't have a name for him. Sorry, I didn't come up with one.
Oh, I'm trying to find the sound. I was going to play the dude sound for him because
we could say Pat put him on the mat. How about that? There we go.
There you go. Plain Pat. Oh, here we go. Game tying field goal.
Don't say a word. I think you might be slightly ahead of me now somehow. And the drum rolls. Going to another overtime, folks.
Almost nunchucked you. You don't even realize.
We're going to have a 2-point off in the Plains. Randy Bond hit his field goal. It is 41-41 after
this is a 2-point off now.
Yeah, I think they do it after the second overtime.
So stupid.
I hate it.
Speaking of Illinois, Penn State a few years ago went to like 8 overtimes doing a 2-point off.
The worst thing. That was when Penn State, they were I think they ended up finishing with like 4 or 5 losses that year maybe, but they were like 9th at the time. I distinctly remember watching that thinking this is the dumbest thing that I've ever seen in my entire life.
Absolutely.
That's not a great way to end a football game. I get burned by Rutgers again, Clinton. I thought that they would win.
So did I.
It looked good a couple times.
Trusted them.
Looked good a couple of times.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Yeah, Kaliak Manis played pretty okay in this game. Stat line wasn't as good as it had been recently. Only a 50% passing effort for him. Kyle Monungai potentially likely his last game at Rutgers. Well, at their home stadium. He'll play next week for sure. But 28 carries. 100 carries. Might as well have had 100 carries. 28 carries
like every week for him.
28 carries, 122 yards. He is well over the 1,000-yard mark for the year. Really good running back, and he's going to be a good NFL running back too. Good for Illinois though, man. 8-3, and they have a not so great Northwestern team that got their breaks beat off this weekend for a chance to go 9-3, man.
Get to a really good bowl game.
Really, yeah. I think I saw today they have an outside chance at making the Citrus Bowl. So good for them. Fantastic season for Illinois. Outstanding coaching job by Brett Bielema this year.
Mm-hmm.
Outstanding job.
Well, good news to Monungai. He becomes the 3rd player in Rutgers history to rush for 3,000 yards in his career, joining Mr. Ray Rice and Terrell Willis. That was just my last piece for that one. Great job to Kyle Monungai, as Ryan said. Phenomenal running back in college. I look forward to see where he lands in the NFL, hopefully with the Cincinnati Bengals to pair with Chase Brown. And we'll see what happens.
Ooh, that was not a good 2-point play.
Ryan, dude.
Oh, shit. Am I ahead of you? My bad.
Somehow I think you've been ahead of me the whole time.
Oh.
Killing me, Smalls. Anyways, let's just get this next one over with because it's going to be quick. Michigan 50, Northwestern 6. That's about all we should give to this game. Michigan, huge flex the week before the greatest rivalry in sports. 5 rushing touchdowns for Michigan. 3 of them went to Maulings. Minus sack yardage, Northwestern was held to 48 rushing yards in this game and only 117 passing. Michigan's defense, 6 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, and 2 interceptions. They demolished them. It was fairly close in the first half, and then they killed them. That's all I got for you.
Yeah,
unimpressive. I mean, impressive win, but unimpressive, right? Yeah, you scored 50. Anytime you score 50 is impressive, but now you get your test. You get a different mentality to Ohio State team, but also an Ohio State team who Ryan Day gets a stick up his ass every time he plays Michigan the last 3 years. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I got a little chuckle from some of the Michigan fans on Twitter being like, oh my gosh, we look good. We're feeling good for next week. I'm like, are you sure?
You played Northwestern.
Yeah, that's
one of the bottom feeders of the Big Ten, man.
They are 4-7. Everyone has scored on that. That was not a good 2.
And we go to a 4th overtime.
I hate this 2.
This is so dumb.
Do you remember a couple years ago when it was, I think LSU and A&M, they played that 7 overtime game? It was like 72-65. We used to be a proper country. Bring it back. Bring it back.
Well, it's supposed to make it in faster, Ryan.
Well, I don't like. Who gives? I don't give it.
Nobody wants to see 2-point plays.
No, because it's the.
Let's have a field goal off.
No, because it's the stupid TV executives. We're gonna get this game over so we can play the next game. Ruining everything. Give me more commercials, but don't let me watch a 7 overtime proper game. Speaking of commercials, Clinton,
don't even go there.
3 different times.
I don't have 15 minutes to bitch about this.
3 different times today. Sam yelled. She would not watch the game initially with me this morning, and she yelled down at 3 different points, like, what's going on with all the commercials? I'm like, I don't know, dude. It's a thing. We talk about it all the time.
Trash.
That's because she doesn't listen to the podcast. She doesn't want to listen to us.
Hey, she does support us on Twitter.
Yeah, when she had her burner. I think she said she got rid of her burner.
Is it still active, though? She shouldn't delete it.
I don't know.
Just leave it on there.
It's still active. I don't think it's still active. Anyway.
Whatever, Sam.
Iowa continues to win without passing the ball, Clinton. 29, Maryland 13. Jackson Stratton was 10 of 14 for 76 yards, and it doesn't
have to do much
because their running game was beastly today. Kaleb Johnson, 35 carries, 164 yards and a score. Kamari Moulton, 12 carries, 114 yards and a score. That's a lot of yards.
It's safe to say, Ryan, if you have it ready, they were both rolling.
Rolling, 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 rolling. Keep rolling, 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 rolling. Keep rolling, 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 rolling.
Who are we going to don that with next year? Kaleb Johnson's not coming back. We're going to have to give it to someone else.
We are definitely going to have to give
the
it to
rolling running game of the year. Hey, Miller Moss is still on USC sidelines. I heard he left.
Well, that's a hell of a catch.
Oh, baby. Auburn, 43. A&M, 41.
He bossed him. That was a hell of a catch.
4th overtime half about to come up with the Aggies.
Do you think Keandre Lambert-Smith has any regrets about his off-season portal decision?
Probably. Penn State's going to the playoff, and he's going to be maybe getting bowl eligible.
Maybe.
They
got to win this game. They got to win next week.
Hey, Ryan, we would be remiss if we did not shout out Mr. Drew Stevens for Iowa. He made 5 field goals today, including kicks from 54 yards in the second quarter, then 50 and 49 in the third. That's 15 points.
That's a lot of points.
Iowa only wins by 1 if he doesn't make all 5 of those.
This is true. Billy Edwards left this game. Apparently he was questionable, which I did not see midweek, and he got knocked out with the same injury. So this was
he got benched first.
Oh.
And then he came back in, then he got hurt in the third quarter. He took a shot and then got knocked out.
So this was mostly an MJ Morris game. He threw 2 interceptions, only had 103 yards passing. So Iowa defense really stepped up in this one, and Maryland still can't run the ball less than 100 yards rushing, 3.8 yards per carry. Iowa.
Oh my God, he had it. He dropped it. It hit him in the mitts, and he dropped it.
Oh, no.
Down goes A&M, another SEC team, likely eliminated from the playoff. Talking playoffs?
I'm not going to play the sound.
Oh my God.
I didn't see it. I was looking at my phone. And
Utter chaos has ensued, folks. 2 1-5 SEC teams have pulled upsets. The SEC, baby, it just means more.
You're 8-3 SEC teams. Holy smokes.
Oh man. Well,
That's
is
crazy.
Texas in no matter what now? If they
think
lose next week?
I have
If I
no.
have to watch this
No, no,
Texas
no, no, no,
A&M
no,
team
no.
play Georgia,
No, I think so. I don't know what the
Tennessee Georgia
tiebreaker.
rematch?
I don't know what the tiebreaker is going to be because in theory, because if Texas A&M still beats Texas, they'd both be 6-2 in the SEC. So that A&M would have the head-to-head, but then you'd have a bunch of other 6-2 teams as well. So I don't know what tiebreaker Mageddon then comes.
What other bunch of Bama has 3 SEC losses.
So it
Ole
would
Miss
be
has 3 SEC losses.
it would be Texas if A&M beats Texas, it would be Texas, Texas A&M, Georgia,
Tennessee. That's
and
it.
Tennessee. So I don't know.
I think it'd be Georgia Tennessee rematch.
Maybe
Wouldn't that be something?
it would be crazy.
How many losses in the SEC does South Carolina have? 2?
No, I think
They have
all
3 overall, but do they have?
No, they're all
Are
three.
they all 3 in the
They've,
SEC?
they've played ass non-conference. Their
All right, well, then they're done.
non-conference game is next week. Yeah, they're out.
Yeah. So
They would need more chaos. Wowzers!
back to the Big Ten. Great win for Iowa. Finish up with the Huskers next week. Maryland, sorry, you're getting Penn State next week, and you're going to get steamrolled.
The Iowa over/under Clinton was 8. They have a chance to do the funniest thing next week and push it. We both said over.
Push it real good.
We're both idiots. We're both idiots. Lastly, Friday night, I got beef with Purdue, man. Michigan State 24, Purdue 17. Purdue kind of, sort of, maybe a little bit put up a fight. I bet Michigan State in this game because I thought they were going to kick the piss
We
out
both
of them.
missed this one. We took Michigan State. Whatever the line was.
Yeah, man. Hudson Card threw for almost 350 yards in a game that Purdue had negative rushing yards overall. Could not run the ball. They ran the ball only 19 times. They straight up did not even try to establish a running game in this one. And Michigan State did not really move the ball much. They had less than 300 yards of total offense in this one.
Everything in the first half too.
They didn't do a damn thing in the second half against Purdue, who has allowed nothing but points this year. So, on the one hand, if you're Michigan State, who cares? You win ugly and you beat Rutgers, and you're going to a bowl game, which is all that matters. And you're one of Jonathan Smith. I guess that's all I have on this game because I don't need to critique a Michigan State performance against a 1-10 team, and I think Brian Walters might get fired after this year. But
he's definitely canned. I was just gonna say I thought Sparty was gonna cruise to a victory, so I went to bed at halftime. And I woke up, I was like, "Holy cow! Did I miss an actual game?" I mean, Sparty went 4 for 4 in the first half, 3 TDs and a field goal. They couldn't put up a big old 0 in the second half.
yeah,
Boilers had 2 chances to tie the game. Mid-fourth, Cards passed to Max Clare, caromed around, and was picked off by Jordan Turner, linebacker for Michigan State. And then they had another chance the next drive, but Jamal Edrin dropped a wide, and I mean wide open pass, just him in open pastures to the end zone, and he dropped it. And they turned it over on downs. So next week, Purdue's season will end mercifully, probably bludgeoningly, against Indiana.
I don't think there's going to be anything merciful about that. I think Indiana's going to be taking out some hostilities on them.
And then Michigan State hosts Rutgers with bowl eligibility on the line. We got an intriguing week next week, folks.
Yes, we do. It is going to be a fun week 14 with so much on the line. I'm sure that I will handle it reasonably with Notre Dame.
Ryan, we need an update on Monday for our ATS overalls heading into the last week to know how many games you got to get to beat me.
I think that I'm going to have to pick every game the opposite of you.
And hope that all of them happen.
Yes. So you got the OSU. Neither of us got Rutgers. I picked Maryland, so I didn't get that either. I picked Penn State, so I didn't get that either. We both picked Northwestern. Good for us. We both picked Nebraska. Dumbasses. We both picked Notre Dame. We both picked UCLA. I don't even remember who my lock of the week was.
Mine was Notre Dame.
I'm gonna have to listen because I did not write down who my lock was. Good for me. I don't think that I can actually catch you. based on the
That
volume
means
of games.
Ryan's buying me a pizza. Our pizza bet is complete. You
Good
can
for
just
me.
Venmo me
Good for me.
$20 and I'll buy my pizza.
Sounds great. I will happily do that.
We got to keep this thing rolling. I want an all-time record. Then when we die and the show ends,
when the
I
show
want
ends,
the all-time record to be known.
put it on my tombstone. The only game we did not talk about is still currently in action. USC currently up 6-3 on UCLA. There's a minute 45 left in the first half.
USC is currently driving.
They got
Likely another field goal.
2nd and 6 right now at the plus 30-yard line. They have one.
I have a
timeout.
simple answer. Just
that was
feed
a beautiful
Jaquavius
ball.
Marks.
Oh no, that was a beautiful
Feed
ball.
Jaquavius Marks. Hey, did you notice Zachariah Branch got his first touchdown of the year last week? Receiving touchdown. I expected a much bigger season for him.
He's not been fantastic as a receiver this year.
Gadget player. That's why he's a gadget player. He's not a true wide receiver. He's a gadget player.
Yeah,
Makes it really hard. He'll find a spot in the NFL because he can return balls really well.
Yeah,
but I don't know if he'll ever be much. He's small. He's a gadget
Davon
player.
Austin.
I mean, hey man, make a living in return games. Even though they want to dick off kickoffs now, I guess he could just live as a. I guess he could just live as a punt returner. We need to end on that. I'm starting to get tired.
All right. Yes. So this will be in you're gonna, if you are typically a Sunday night listener and you were not on Twitter today, you will be surprised. This will be in your podcast feed tomorrow morning.
And we will try to get the YouTube live feed up tomorrow. So if you want to watch us at our normal time, you can. If you miss us.
Yes. Oh, it'll already, Clint. It's already up. It's just automatically.
I'm sorry. I meant just post it on Twitter for anyone who doesn't go to our YouTube page.
So
which you should and press follow.
Oh, that was a nice throw. Did he catch that? I don't think he caught that. So no Sunday show from us. This is effectively our Sunday show for the week. We will be back Monday night, 9 p.m. for another Playoff Talk Monday. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot to discuss because a lot of teams in the top 10-ish, top 15 lost. I'm going to have to actually put some effort into this one this week. So thank you, everyone, for popping on tonight if you joined us live. And thank you, everyone, for listening on Sunday. Hopefully you're listening, doing something fun, prepping for family or whatever it is people do for fun these days. We'll catch you on Sunday. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
See ya. That was fun. We should do it again next week.
I had to resist the urge